Hi, Jeff Bridgman here of Jeff R. Bridgman American Antiques in York County, Pennsylvania. I've come here tonight to tell you about this wonderful flag, which is a U.S. Navy flag, you say? No, 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 no. No, no, no. Have I said no enough times yet? No, it's not a U.S. Navy flag. That is the most common attribution I get from people who call me or email me about them all the time, saying, "Oh, I have this fantastic U.S. Navy flag, and the stars are hand sewn, and I think it's worth a lot of money." And then I have to tell them it's electric machine sewn, it's 20th century, and no, there are tons of them. For some reason, there are extremely few 19th century examples of this flag, even though it came about pre 1850. So, what is it? Well, let's turn back the clock a little bit to the 18th century. And what did you do in a boat in America? You fished, maybe. More likely, you were a merchant, taking goods back and forth to various nations. And, did you go out on a boat for fun? Not so much. Um, Pleasure boating didn't become a thing in America until the 19th century. Your first boat races are in the late 1820s, early 1830s, at a wonderful yacht race flag from 1832 from Newburgh, New York. But they really weren't yachts. They were actually barges that they raced at the time. And really, yachting didn't really start until the 1830s, 40s, and your first big race at the beginning of the 1850s. So this is what's called a private yacht ensign. And how did it come about? Well, as pleasure boating, as yachting became a thing in America, it was a pain in the rear for one of these wealthy individuals who owned a yacht to have to take their ship through customs and wait in line like everyone else and get searched and etc. So, in order to avoid this, a guy named John Cox Stevens, his grandfather was John Stevens Jr., he's a delegate to Continental Congress from New Jersey. His father was a Revolutionary War officer who was extraordinarily wealthy, pioneered steamboating, and bought Hoboken, New Jersey, the land that became Hoboken, owned the whole thing. And John Cox Stevens himself ran the company that ran the ferry to New York and back, and he was also president of the Jockey Club, the British Jockey Club. Holy smokes, an American is in charge of the Jockey Club? Oh my heavens. At any rate, and he became the first commandant of the New York Yacht Club when he was elected in 1844, and the club formed in 1845. Now, before that, he was also one of the founding members of the Union Club, one of the most prestigious clubs in America, certainly the most prestigious in New York, the mother of all clubs, it's called. And guys that were members of that were Cornelius Vanderbilt, Winston Churchill, John Jacob Astor, William Randolph Hearst, Hearst Castle, a lot of military guys. Winfield Scott, General Grant, Sherman, Sheridan, Eisenhower in the 20th century. So you can see what kind of characters you have here. And J.P. Morgan. So with this sort of wealth, John Cox Stevens and this sort of backing went to the U.S. Treasury, and practically everybody in Stevens' family was in high-ranking politics or just extraordinarily wealthy. And he said, hey, to the Secretary of the Treasury, who was in charge of customs, can't we work something out here so guys with pleasure boats don't have to sit in line and get searched just like every other boat? And that's what happened. So in 1848, Congress approved this flag as an official U.S. flag, and you could apply for registration And if approved, you could fly this flag and bypass customs. So Stevens, incidentally, was part of the syndicate that owned the yacht America, and in 1851 won the race and received the trophy that would then later be named after his boat, the America's Cup. This particular example is the best that I've ever had. Now, occasionally I get some interesting ones that have, maybe a really fat anchor, a really skinny one, or have some sort of interesting attributes. This one, graphically speaking, is the nicest of any of them, I think. It's supposed to have a circle of stars, which we can see here is pretty much anything but, as it goes up and around and down and really is squared off at the corner here. Very folky. Crosses into American folk art, which is really wonderful. And it has a shaft across the top here that is way wider than usual and just folky in every sort of way. I'll show you close-ups here of the stars and anchor, which are wonderfully hand-sewn and single appliqued, meaning that the stars are applied to one side and then cutouts are made on the reverse, and the fabric carefully underhemmed with just the tiniest stitches, and turning the wool fabric under and sewing it like that with wool bunting, which this flag is made of. I don't even know how they did it, because it is loosely woven and it just falls apart. It's easy to pull apart if you have an open edge. So incredible to do really an 1/8 inch and less underhem. This probably made the flag lighter to have stars on only one side. It also saved fabric. And I think it was done probably for both of those reasons. And this is an indication of it being 19th century versus 20th century. There's rare exceptions to that, but generally speaking, that's where stars become machine sewn starting around 1890. So this particular flag was probably made somewhere between the 1860s and 1880s at the latest. The stripes are treadle sewn together, but it's a really fine treadle stitching. This is an early flag and just an absolutely fantastic one as far as they go. Incidentally, one may note that the underhemming occurs on the obverse of the flag on this side, which you might call the front. Now, people, including collectors, often say that this is the back side of the applique work, that the front was really the other side, and this was meant to be the back side, and therefore it's the back side of the flag. No. It's a two-sided flag. We call this the obverse when the canton is on this side, as of today, and we call the other the reverse. But in the 19th century, it didn't matter. And this wasn't a flag that was going to get tacked to a wall. It's a two-sided flag. There is not a front or a back, and I love it when this side is exposed that has the underhemming, because you can see these two rows of hand stitching very well on this side, and the stars and any device it might have will look funkier on this side and folkier. Not so crude that they're not beautiful. They're actually more beautiful. And from an early American textile perspective, better. I love this side. In fact, I'll often take a flag where the underhemming is on the other side and display the reverse, just because of that. Just because the stars and the device are so much better, I think, usually, on that particular side. The legislation for this actually stayed on the books until 1980. Now, I don't know how often you could actually bypass customs in 1980 if you were flying this flag and had the registration. Maybe you could. Seems like it'd be pretty much disappearing by then. But at any rate, you will still see it flown today. So if you're in any sort of port, in any sort of marina, look around, and chances are, if somebody's flying flags, you'll see one. So still in use today, even though it has no official purpose other than decorative and nostalgia. So thanks for coming along tonight to take a look at this wonderful flag, this wonderful private yacht ensign, not a Navy flag, and just a killer representation of it, nicest I've ever had. And check it out on our website, www.jeffbridgman.com. See you again soon.